we need a journalism that uses the tools of the 21st century. I think the old school journalism is good with this set of values, to have multiple sources, to have check and recheck, to be based on facts and fact checking. But of course, with the tools of the 21st century, like user-generated content that is all over the place, it's not so much about finding the original material, but sorting out what is already there and what makes sense and what is factually provable.
To understand our vulnerability, we have to understand how we tick, how we work. And that's why your film is full of very, very brainy experts on neurology, on how our brain works. Tell me what we learn from them about why we fall for groupthink, for fake news.
The film originally started out as a project about fact-checking software, then came investigative journalism. But the real thing that changed the entire scope of the film was when the neuroscientists entered the picture, because they give us the explanation why we fall so easily for these fakery. And the way this works is, in our brain, we construct a model of the world through all the input that comes through our senses, basically. If we are cutting ourselves off the real world and spend most of the time online in the virtual world, this model of the world gets distorted. And that's actually what's happening with a lot of the conspiracy theories.
And what we see as familiar and therefore we think is true could be just totally made up rubbish.
Exactly, and there is actually proof of that. So I did an interview with LBC, which is a British radio station, and they had one of their lead reporters in Miami at the day of the US election, and he was talking to Trump supporters. And they were all very nice, but they believed into a total alternate reality. So they had these ideas that had nothing to do with the truth. There actually is another troubling sign of that with the latest Romanian elections for the president of Romania.
Very much led by TikTok, yeah.
Which basically was decided by TikTok and Telegram groups. And so this means that I think in the modern world, which is very complex, it's very hard to go out and fact check everything yourself. So you need to rely on sources. If you narrow it down to just one source of information, you automatically get a distorted view of the world, because it's just one point of view, it's just one set of values. So I think what is key to actually deal with this complexity that we have in our world is to have multiple sources of information and to also talk to real people, not just rely on the online world.
And even to have that thought process. I know you trained as historian, but it made me think of the very first thing you learn at school was, where did this information come? Does the person have an interest in selling you a story? You have to try and evaluate where the information comes from. Is that something we have to kind of, I guess, teach our children at an early age?
I think media literacy is going to be the key to actually being able to cope with this new information ecosystem in which we're in. And you can see there's like a ranking by Reuters of OECD countries and the trust in media. And the highest trust is in the Nordic countries, and within the Nordic countries, it's in Finland. Finland is also the country where you've got media literacy training from a very early age on. And so I think it's key for people to be first made aware of what's happening, but then also to be trained in how to use these tools, and to use this set of information, or these sets of information that they are getting.